Well, let's just not beat around the bush. So the Vikings are favored by 7. There are a whole bunch of ways, or at FanDuel, at least last I checked the line. So there are a whole bunch of ways for that to manifest itself, right? Justin Jefferson could go off, or they could overcommit to him again, and everybody else could go off, or they could have a bunch of turnovers off of Caleb Williams, or get a bunch of sacks on Caleb Williams. So many of those ways you could list a lot of those sort of normal outcomes. But what is the one where the Bears do this? Like what is, I guess, the best of the Bears? What is their best possible product if they put it all together look like?
Yeah, I think it's about coming out and getting Caleb Williams confident and into a rhythm quickly and early, and being able to give him answers for the Vikings blitz, to be able to let him be decisive. And because against the 49ers, the thing that stood out, like, yes, we've seen him hold the ball too long at times this season or whatever. And we've seen him maybe not pull the trigger on some throws, but like he felt even tentative to just like flee the pocket. Like he would like wait that extra half a second before he'd start to scramble, and wouldn't necessarily like scramble in a hurry, and he'd get chased down and sacked before he would, where in the past he would escape and make a miraculous Houdini type of effort. So like just to sort of like get him back playing with some of that confidence and some of that energy that can get this offense going. Like the Vikings were, I think, the only team the Bears scored a touchdown on in the first quarter all season, came up to a 7-0 lead there to start. And like, that's what the Bears need to get going. So it's not 24-0 at halftime like it was against the 49ers, and they have to pull some miraculous comeback at the end. And then, the defense is going to give up yards. They're going to get gashed a lot, but it's about those turnovers, right? If they can get one or even two off of Sam Darnold, maybe one off of a ball carrier, like give them extra possessions that don't end in points for the Vikings. And like, that's how you sort of shoot out your way to a, 30-27 overtime type of final score.
30-20. That would be a really funny way for that to go down. I see. I guess we haven't really talked about how Caleb Williams is doing, and the last few games with Thomas Brown, he's been better. But I just can't get out of my head. A lot of people talked about that Vikings game as this kind of like breakout party for Caleb Williams with a couple of the plays that he made. But I can't get that last sack out of my head. That nothing is happening. Like how does he not roll that thing out? He had the escape lane, throw away, live to fight another down. He's that kind of hero ball gene just like totally set in the wrong moment, and he takes this hideous sack. Has he been still doing that the last couple of weeks? Is that still there?
It felt better against the Detroit Lions, and then got back. So last two games in Lions and 49ers since then. It was better the immediate week after, and then 49ers was definitely a step back in that regard, where he isn't again, like decisiveness feels like the word here. Like he's just not, he's tentative with like everything that he did. He's tentative to pull, tentative to run. And like, you feel like that's not who we've seen Caleb Williams generally be, just from like an energy and a swagger type of how he carries himself dating back to college and throughout the rest of the season. So it's hard to know then which version of that we're going to get this week. Is it maybe still a little bit flat, or are they going to bring that energy back up for the Minnesota Vikings and the divisional game? But it's on the road where the Bears have been struggling quite a bit under Matt Eberflus, now extended into the Thomas Brown regime. So it's definitely a part of the process here, and it's just a matter of how much of that we're going to get.
There's a nugget I'll give you from something that I wrote last week. I charted all of the Vikings fronts manually, and how often in particular they did cover zero was really interesting. They're not cover zero the coverage, but cover zero the pre-snap alignment, with everybody lined up on the line of scrimmage and one guy playing 8 to 10 yards off every receiver. And they did it the most. I didn't do this last week against the Falcons. That one actually might beat it, but at least up until then, the most of all season against Chicago, which to me is a sign of disrespecting a rookie. That's a little bit, you're new, you think a lot, let's make you think fast and hope mistakes happen. And I would be very surprised if Brian Flores doesn't do that again. So I think the answer is the same as it was when I asked you last week. But Caleb Williams sees 7 guys on the line of scrimmage and everybody in off coverage. What is his move? Does he change the play into a perimeter screen? Does he just say, I'm going to throw it to my hot? Does he say, I'm going to run around like a madman? What is going through his head before the snap when he sees that kind of look?
Yeah, I think they've done a better job under Thomas Brown of at least giving him different options there. So we have seen sometimes, he'll change the play to a boundary screen, and they've been liking getting the ball into DJ Moore's hand in that type of situations. We've seen other plays where he'll adjust the protection and say, let's pick it up and go. I mean, it kind of depends on what they're giving him on the front end and what the structure of the formation of the play is going to be. They're not always in a great position to check into a screen pass, depending on alignment where they are on the field. And they're not always in a great position to bring in the right extra blockers to pick up the blitz if you have 4 wide receivers in the field, right? So it's not that there's necessarily like one go-to option there, but I think he's definitely someone who isn't afraid to try and take it on and beat it with his arm, and then but also then trust himself that, hey, if that first look's not there, I can outrun and outmaneuver these guys. And well, he's got the confidence to believe that. He doesn't always execute it that way in practice when he thinks he can beat the guy and then ends up getting tripped up as he escapes the pocket and takes a sack. But the idea was there. He just couldn't quite finish it.
I think this is going to be a really interesting game. I mean, the second divisional game is always fascinating, especially if the first one was close, because that means both teams did some things well and some things poorly. And then it's a matter of who has it in them to make those adjustments. And is it the team that changed their staff and now maybe has guys with different perspectives very willing to adjust stuff? Or do they break everything down that was working and that's, I don't know. It's really interesting to me, especially on the offensive side where the structure has changed so much. And I feel more fascinated with like what's going on in Chicago, even than sometimes what's going on with the Vikings. That, oh, well, we understand this now. Okay, Sam Darnold's doing his thing. They're going to chase shot plays all day long. They're going to go for deep balls all day long. They're going to maybe take some sacks or maybe throw some picks doing it. And it's going to be worth it because they get a 50-yard touchdown every quarter. Like, okay, I get it. But Chris Beatty, what's he going to do? Like, I'm so fascinated.
I will say, like, as far as chasing the shot plays go, like, especially with Jaquan Brisker out for the year, and right now they're on their third string safety, Jonathan Owens, the husband of Simone Biles, or boyfriend. I don't remember what their relationship is now.
Fiance, husband.
Like last week against the 49ers, they played single deep on like almost every snap. They ran like 2 or 3 or 4 snaps of cover 4, and everything else was single deep the rest of the way. So they clearly weren't going to drop back and keep the shot. But maybe that was an approach for Brock Purdy and an injured 49ers team. But I'm just like, when I think about this matchup, I think Kevin Connell is a better offensive coach than Eric Washington is a defensive coach head to head. And Brian Flores is a better defensive coach than Thomas Brown is an offensive coach head to head. The Vikings clearly have the coaching matchup. And so it feels to me like the Bears figured some things out in the first game, but I would put my money on the smarter coaching staff making the proper adjustments to beat out the maybe lesser coaching staff in the competition.
All right, I have a take. I don't know how Bears fans are going to feel about it. I think the key to the upset, to answer the question we kind of opened with here, is that Caleb Williams has to go Justin Fields on it. Late 2023 Justin Fields on it. Not talking rushing, but talking just take matters into his own hands and just play the style of football he plays. And that has to, and like the scramble drills have to work. Like he just has to go full on USC and not rely on anyone else's talent, which is not what you want your rookie to have to do. But I remember that's why Chicago kind of went on that win streak late last year, is because Justin Fields just started doing the very unhealthy thing of just running all the time. And it's like, well, yeah, but it did like put up 30.
Yeah, it's tough when like
that's where I feel it's at.
I agree with you, because like you even look back to last week against the 49ers and there's still spacing issues and in terms of route concept stuff, where it's like you can't,
when timing is not there. It's like a rookie's not going to have that dialed in, but also like Keenan Allen's not as fast as you wish he was, you know?
Yeah. So when you can't count on the built-in structure of the play, then it takes you creating magic by yourself. And that feels like what it would have to take for Caleb Williams in this game. And as you said, like, you don't want to put him in that position. He was able to do some of that against the Vikings the first time, so maybe he can do it again. But I just kind of get the feeling like they kind of gassed out on a lot of what was in the tank there for Caleb, and that the rest of the year is going to fizzle out a little bit more.
I'm going to see preseason Bears defenses and offenses.
What it felt like last week.